One of the hardest things someone has to do is communicate bad news. Tell someone else something that they won't enjoy hearing. And in a daycare setting, workers are communicating unpleasant information to parents about a small child, their small child. But it is something that every daycare worker has to do. Unfortunately, it's part of the job. Up until this point in the session, we have discussed the communication process as well as strategies and suggestions to help it be strong and successful. Those strategies and suggestions still apply when handling difficult communications, but there are also some specific approaches that can be used in these situations. In this section, we will be discussing those strategies. To begin, don't wait until there's a problem to talk to parents and guardians. Be proactive and talk with parents and guardians on a regular basis from the very beginning. That way, you will have established a strong working relationship with them. This relationship will make it easier to discuss anything because a level of trust will have developed, and in addition, you will also have figured out the most effective ways to discuss things with each individual person. If a problem does arise, again, don't wait to discuss it. Avoiding bad news will most likely only compound the problem, especially if it's a behavioral issue, because when children get in trouble, they tend to run home and tell their side of the story as quickly as possible. It's not that children always lie, though we all know that sometimes they do. It's that they will relate the details of the incident from their point of view, a very young child's point of view. In addition, the parents are getting bad news from their child, and they should be getting it from you, the adult in charge. This could very easily cause the parents to become defensive in order to protect their child. It's always better if the parents hear about problems from another adult. Now, it may be that your day is crazy and that you don't have a lot of time to discuss details. It's best in that situation to give an overview of the problem and set up another time, a specific time in the very near future, to discuss things in more detail. When discussing a problem with parents, make sure that you share positive feedback as well as information about the problem. In fact, it is most effective to lead with a positive, a genuine positive. It opens the door a bit and makes it easier to have a productive discussion. Every child has strengths as well as areas that need work, and sometimes those two things appear together. For instance, let's say you have a child in your classroom named Susan. Susan spends the day visiting and chatting with all the other kids, and you can't seem to get her focused on anything. That's the problem. But if you look at the situation objectively, the child's strength is also there. Susan's actions indicate that she is a warm, sociable, friendly child. You can honestly say that these are her strengths, and they may serve her well in the future. The current problem is that she doesn't yet know when it is appropriate to visit with others. If a discussion becomes heated, remember that placing blame is not important. Sometimes, no one is to blame. Things just happen. Sometimes there is plenty of blame to go around. Whatever the case, playing the blame game will get you nowhere. The important thing is finding a solution, and that will only happen if both sides can come together. This can be a difficult thing to remember when you are in that situation, but it is crucial that you focus on it. Also, remember that sometimes parents just need to vent. They are frustrated and angry and defensive, and they need to let it out. Unfortunately, you are on the front line, which means that you may catch the brunt of any rant. In most cases, the best thing to do is let them vent, realizing that it may not actually be directed at you. And then once the rant is over, see if you can move forward to find a solution. Sometimes you will need to set up another time and place to discuss things, a time when things have cooled down and objectivity has returned. When communicating with parents or guardians, try to keep in mind that it can be difficult for a parent, someone who is so emotionally vested in a situation regarding his or her child, to remain objective. Though you may very well feel emotionally vested, you are the professional. You need to find a way to remain calm and help ground things in objectivity. This may be easier said than done. You are human, so things will upset you. It's perfectly normal and acceptable. It's what you do after you become upset that makes all the difference. The first step is to learn to realize when you have lost your objectivity. Then you can deal with it effectively. Even though it is important to speak with parents as soon as possible, it isn't ideal to do it if you are upset. If possible, take a few minutes to cool down before talking with them, and try to jot down a few notes to help you focus on the details of the issue when you speak. If that's not possible, or if you should become upset in the middle of the conversation, be honest about it. Admit that you are not in the proper state of mind to discuss things, and ask if you can set up a time, a specific time in the very near future, to meet again. That way, you can gather your thoughts, everyone can settle down, and hopefully, you will then be able to have a more productive discussion. One extremely important thing to understand when communicating with anyone is the concept of empathy. Empathy is not sympathy. It is something different. Sympathy means that you try to see another person's situation and feel for them through your own eyes. Empathy, on the other hand, means you try to put yourself in someone else's shoes. You try to see the situation from their point of view, from their eyes. As an example of how this might work, let's look at an all too familiar question asked by many parents. Why are you picking on my kid? Most daycare workers and other educational professionals who have heard this question instinctually feel that the parents who utter this question are being unreasonable and unfair. There's too much to do in a day to fit in picking on any child. It's just not possible. However, if we use empathy and put ourselves in the parent's shoes, we may see something quite different. If we, as daycare professionals, only communicate with parents and guardians when some kind of problem arises, then they are only receiving negative feedback about their child. If that is all they ever hear from us, then jumping to the conclusion that we are picking on their child seems logical from that point of view. It is probably the wrong conclusion, but it is easy to see, using empathy, how they might arrive at it. Finally, do not be afraid to ask for help. If you are unsure about how to proceed, or if you feel things might have the potential of getting out of control, talk to your child care director and get his or her advice. Most directors are more than willing to help you out, for they would rather give you advice before something happens instead of try to clean up a messy situation after the fact. If you do need to seek advice after a situation has become heated, this is where your notes could come in very handy. Remember, your notes should contain any contact times, subjects, problems, issues, things you've tried, etc. If you can give your director a clear and precise report of what has been done to date, then he or she will be better prepared to move forward and find a solution. The same philosophy applies with directors as with parents. Don't procrastinate. Make sure that you let your director know what is going on in a timely manner. In fact, once you suspect there could be a problem, talk to them. Ignoring a problem doesn't solve it. In fact, it will only make it worse. Establishing strong relationships and communicating effectively with parents and guardians could be the single most successful stress reliever you can do. Take the time to set these up early, and you will be rewarded in the end.